This boy's name is Alto Goldfield. He is a student at the Royal Ortija Magic Academy. And today, Alto is facing a very serious problem. His exam scores, although he achieved full marks in the theoretical subjects. But, the most important exam is summoning a familiar. He still hasn't been able to perform. And this exam isn't too difficult. Because Alto just needs to summon and form a pact with an insect to complete it. The teacher said he would give him one final chance. If Alto doesn't form a pact with a familiar by tomorrow, he will be held back. This girl is Lilia. She is Alto's childhood friend. So, she is very worried about him. And Lilia is ready to teach the teacher a lesson. If he holds Alto back. Because Lilia has witnessed Alto's hard work over the past year. But, Alto says that the teacher has given him one chance. So, Alto will do his best tomorrow. After that, he went to the library. Alto realized that compatibility was the key to a successful summon. Suddenly, a book fell on his head. Alto saw that it was very old. So, he decided to take it home and study it. At that moment, Alto realized that it was a magic summoning book, which fascinated him. So, Alto tried drawing a magic circle just like in the book. As soon as he recited the chant, the magic was instantly activated. Then, he dropped a single drop of his blood onto the magic circle. Alto realized that he had succeeded. Suddenly, a demon girl appeared before him, shocking Alto. He had no idea what he had just summoned. But, he saw that she wasn't wearing anything, which made him embarrassed. Meanwhile, the demon girl was amused, because she realized that Alto was still very innocent. She told Alto that he could do anything he wanted with her. So, Alto said he wanted her to form a pact with him. Suddenly, a magical seal appeared on Alto's hand, and another seal appeared on her chest, surprising her, because Alto's magic was too powerful. Then, she kissed Alto to absorb his mana, which drained his energy. She introduced herself as Vermile. From now on, Alto was her master. Vermile was a demon that had been sealed away 300 years ago. But, Alto just wanted Vermile to put on some clothes immediately. When she finally got dressed, it only made Alto blush even more. At that moment, Vermile realized something. Due to Alto's immense magic power, no familiar dared to approach him. This surprised Alto. He asked her if she was a demon, because he had learned in class that demons were terrifying creatures. They could destroy an entire nation if they wanted to. Alto didn't understand why Vermile decided to form a pact with him. She could easily break the pact and kill him if she wanted to. But, Vermile explained that she had been trapped inside that book for too long. Thanks to Alto, she was finally freed. So, as a way of repaying him, she formed a pact with him. Becoming his familiar was a small price to pay for her freedom. The next morning, Alto took Vermile to meet his teacher. The teacher thought Alto had just hired a woman to pretend to be his familiar to pass the class. This made Vermile angry. So, she showed him their pact mark. The teacher was shocked, because the pact was enormous. He then agreed to let Alto pass the exam. Meanwhile, Lilia was jealous, because her beloved was being stolen by another woman. At that moment, Vermile kept clinging to Alto. This annoyed the teacher. But, since it was normal for a familiar to cling to their master, so, he couldn't punish them. Lilia saw Vermile constantly hugging Alto, and she couldn't take it anymore. In the afternoon, she asked Vermile, "Who are you?" It turns out that Vermile had hidden her demon tail and horns before, to avoid drawing attention. Although Alto tried to explain, Lilia immediately challenged Vermile to a duel. The academy's rules allowed students to duel, to settle disputes, and the loser would have to obey the winner's command. This excited Vermile. Vermile said that if she won, Lilia would have to follow any request Alto made. This made Lilia embarrassed, because she imagined getting closer to Alto. Then, they stepped onto the battlefield. Lilia quickly summoned a high-level wind spirit, making Alto worried, because her attack was too powerful. But, Vermile blocked her attack effortlessly. To everyone's surprise, she was completely unharmed. This made Vermile even more excited. It's her turn to attack Lilia. Vermile tickles Lilia. She can't take it. So, Lilia loses. She is forced to listen to Alto's request. Suddenly, he suggests that Lilia be friends with Vermile. So, Lilia shakes hands and becomes friends with Vermile. This makes them very happy. But Alto realizes they are still not getting along. That night, Vermeil tells Alto, "That girl likes you." But Alto thinks she just sees him as a friend. Suddenly, Vermeil absorbs more of Alto's mana to help her regain her strength. Because Vermeil had been sealed for too long, this embarrasses Alto, because she keeps kissing him. The next morning, Alto and Vermeil go to the academy together, surprising the other students, because Vermeil's body is too seductive. Suddenly, a dragon charges at them, frightening everyone. But Vermeil stops it with just a snap of her fingers. Amazing Alto. At this moment, Alto and Vermeil are attending the entrance ceremony to celebrate them becoming second-year students. Alto scolded Vermeil because she stood out too much and attracted the male students, making him feel helpless. Then, they started their class. Meanwhile, Lilia was still feeling uncomfortable because Vermeil kept clinging to her crush. In the afternoon, she was still arguing with Vermeil. So, Alto reminded Lilia about her promise in the duel. They had to become friends. Suddenly, two young men came looking for Vermeil because they heard a rumor that she defeated a dragon with a snap of her fingers. One of them introduced himself as Rex, a dragon trainer. It turned out the dragon Vermeil defeated in the morning belonged to his younger brother. They kept blaming her. Alto felt they were too noisy. So, he sneaked behind them and froze them, which made Rex angry. He immediately summoned a giant dinosaur. It turned out he was a fifth-year student, which made Alto worried. Lilia scolded him for bullying underclassmen. But Rex didn't care. He suggested that Vermeil obey all his demands, because her hot body was his type. But Alto immediately stepped up to protect Vermeil. Rex ordered the dinosaur to attack them. Suddenly, Vermeil hugged Alto, helping him increase his magic power. He immediately created a giant ice pillar and defeated them. At this point, Rex admitted defeat. So, he apologized to them. Lilia teased him. After they returned, Alto told Vermeil to avoid drawing attention. Otherwise, it would cause them trouble. But Vermeil said she would handle everything, and she asked what Alto's wish was. So, Alto said he wanted to become a great mage. It turned out that mages in this country were divided into 4 ranks: gold, silver, bronze, and apprentice. For most students at the academy, reaching bronze rank was already difficult. Only a few of them could reach silver rank, and gold rank was reserved for the most elite. They made great contributions to science and magic. However, Alto's goal was the platinum rank, which excited Vermeil. She promised to make his dream come true. Suddenly, Vermeil took off her shirt, shocking Alto. It turned out she wanted Alto to replenish her magic power. The next morning, Vermeil was full of energy. But Lilia noticed that Alto looked exhausted. Suddenly, 2 other students came looking for Alto. They were Marcus and Cheryl. Marcus heard that Alto had defeated Rex, which made him excited. Alto told Vermeil that Marcus was their classmate, and that his family was very noble. Suddenly, the teacher announced that the principal wanted to see them. It turned out that Alto, Lilia, and Cheryl were the top 3 students in their class. So, the principal wanted to choose one of them as the representative for the second-year students, and he would give them a special test. They had to go into the forest and retrieve a fairy flower. Whoever found it first would win. But Marcus also wanted to participate, even though he wasn't an outstanding student. So, he summoned his beetle and rushed into the forest. Very quickly, he was caught by a carnivorous plant, because this forest was filled with many dangerous monsters. So, Cheryl decided to stay behind to rescue his master. At this point, only Alto and Lilia remained. They spotted the fairy flower. But the area was guarded by a 3-headed wolf. Alto didn't know how to get past it. Lilia came up with an idea. She would use an invisibility potion, which surprised Alto, because this potion could only be made by graduates. So, she drank the potion. Although her body disappeared, she still had to take off all her clothes, which made Lilia embarrassed, because Alto was looking at her. But since she was invisible, she thought Alto couldn't see her body. Meanwhile, Alto realized he also had to act. He asked about the power Vermeil had given him yesterday. It turned out it was the magic she had taken from Alto before, and Vermeil had amplified it. Vermeil said she could defeat the wolves easily. She just needed a little of Alto's magic. So, Vermeil pinned Alto down to absorb his mana. Meanwhile, Lilia was discovered by the wolves. She was in danger. Fortunately, Alto stopped them. The three-headed wolf kept attacking Alto. He decided to hold it off, so that Lilia could take the fairy flower. Vermeil also took action. She used magic to defeat the three-headed wolf easily. In the end, Lilia obtained the fairy flower. But she decided to give it to Alto, because she felt he deserved it more. Suddenly, the invisibility potion wore off, so Alto could see Lilia's body. This shocked her, but the wind blew the fairy flower toward Cheryl. By accident, she became the representative of their class. This made Alto and Lilia very happy, and Lilia would have a rematch with Alto. The next morning, Vermeil got a crepe. She was very excited, because she had been sealed for 300 years. Her era did not have such foods. Suddenly, they saw a flock of dragons flying in the sky. It turned out to be the Dragon Knights, and their captain's name was Chris. Rex was also a member of the Dragon Knights. At that moment, Alto promised to buy Vermeil more chocolate crepes. This made her happy, so she shared her crepe with Alto. This embarrassed him, because they looked like a couple. At that moment, Marcus was telling Alto and Lilia about Chris. She was the captain of the kingdom's Dragon Knights. She was also one of the 7 gold-ranked students of the academy. And Chris was the president of the student council. This surprised Alto, because a student could become a gold-ranked mage. Lilia said that all the student council members were top-ranked in the academy, and 5 of them were gold-ranked mages. This excited Alto, but Vermeil kept getting close to Alto. This made Lilia angry, so they continued to argue. At this moment, Lilia couldn't understand why Alto's familiar was a woman, and she was also very strong. Vermeil could defeat a dragon with a single attack. That was something even gold-ranked mages struggled to do. So, Lilia was determined to uncover her secret. Cheryl realized that Lilia loved Alto very much. This embarrassed her, so Cheryl told Lilia to hurry up, because Alto and Vermeil were getting closer. Meanwhile, Vermeil had accidentally entered the boys' changing room to watch Alto change. This made him feel embarrassed. So, Alto told Vermeil to stop drawing too much attention. Suddenly, they encountered the student council members. Everyone was surprised, because they were the 5 gold-ranked mages. But Chris paid special attention to Vermeil. That night, Chris gathered the members of her Dragon Knights, and she punished Rex, because he had lost to a lower-ranked student. She humiliated Rex's dinosaur, calling it just a lizard. Chris even forced him to lick her boots. So, Rex declared that he would leave the club. Chris immediately knocked him out, and then she set her sights on Alto. The next morning, Alto visited Rex in the hospital. He didn't know why Rex was so badly injured, but Rex didn't want him to get involved. So, he only asked Alto what he thought about dinosaurs. Alto said they were big and cool. This made Rex very happy. At that moment, Alto decided to step into the academy's battle arena. It turned out he wanted to challenge Chris. She thought Alto was very brave, because he dared to challenge her. So, she decided to show him her true strength. She summoned a dragon. So, Alto kissed Vermeil. Chris noticed that his magic power had increased. Then he used ice to attack Chris. But she blocked it. She counterattacked with a fireball. So, Vermeil blocked it for Alto. This amused Chris. She kept attacking them. When Chris was about to end the match, Vermeil blocked her attack. This surprised Chris, because Vermeil could block her attack with her body. So, Chris realized that Vermeil was no ordinary familiar. Then, they launched a counterattack, creating a massive explosion. Alto thought he had won. Unexpectedly, Chris had ridden her dragon to evade the attack. She continued attacking them, forcing them into a corner of the arena. While Chris was enjoying herself, she told Alto to kneel and apologize. Otherwise, he would end up in the hospital like Rex. Alto felt she was looking down on others too much. But Chris said that dragons were the rulers of the sky, and she looked down on those weaker than her. Then, she resumed her attack. Luckily, Vermeil kept blocking the attacks for Alto, which made him worried. But Vermeil said she could defeat Chris in a single strike, if she had enough magic power. At that moment, Chris continued her assault. She said that a familiar was just a way to measure a mage's strength. and she only saw Rex's dinosaur as a big lizard. But Alto said that a familiar was a true companion for its master. Chris told him to prove it to her. Vermeil said she would. So, Vermeil hugged Alto and released a golden aura of magic. This excited Chris. She immediately attacked them. But Chris suddenly realized they had vanished. It turned out that Vermeil had taken Alto and leapt into the air. Meanwhile, Rex wasn't worried at all, because he already knew how the battle would end. Then, Alto jumped down and restrained Chris. Everyone was shocked, because he had won. At that moment, the female students surrounded Alto. Since he had defeated a student council member, this made Lilia jealous. So, she wanted to chase them all away. Suddenly, Professor Obsidian arrived. He had also heard that Alto defeated Chris. But he warned Alto not to be reckless, because if he had lost, no one knew what might have happened. Still, he respected Alto's decision. At that moment, Alto finally understood why the female students liked to gather around Obsidian. He thought Lilia's type might be someone like Obsidian. This made her furious. Meanwhile, Chris was cleaning up trash, and she apologized to Rex. This surprised him, because since she lost, she had to obey Alto's request. That night, Alto was sleeping soundly. Suddenly, Vermeil kissed him. This shocked him. He told Vermeil that kisses should only be shared with someone you love. But Vermeil said, "I love you very much." The next morning, Alto was exhausted, because Vermeil had bothered him all night. Meanwhile, Vermeil was full of energy. But he couldn't forget that she said she loved him. Alto wondered if demons could truly love humans. So, he went to ask Obsidian. This surprised him. Obsidian also thought it was rare for a demon to love a human. But the book also mentioned the relationship between succubus demons and humans. Since succubus desired human magic power, this shocked Alto. That night, Vermeil noticed that Alto was acting strange, because he wasn't focused on eating dinner. Suddenly, he asked Vermeil, "You only desire my magic power, don't you?" But Vermeil immediately hugged him. She said she truly needed his magic power. Suddenly, Vermeil kissed him, but this time, Alto realized she wasn't absorbing his magic. Vermeil said, "I only kiss the one I love," and she told Alto that he could kiss her back. This made him embarrassed, so he quickly pushed Vermeil away. The next morning, both Alto and Vermeil were in a great mood, which made Lilia confused about what they had done. Alto thanked Professor Obsidian for helping him find an answer to his question the day before. Obsidian noticed that Alto looked much brighter. But he warned him, a relationship with a demon is unpredictable. And he realized that Alto had feelings for someone. So, Obsidian gave him some advice, which Alto didn't understand at all. At that moment, a female student entered Obsidian's office. She looked shy, because she was deeply in love with Obsidian. So, Obsidian hugged her to show his affection. But he pulled out a syringe, and the girl became his test subject. Rumors soon spread around the school that a student had been found frozen inside a room. The student council started investigating the case, because this wasn't the first time it had happened. All 4 victims so far had been silver-ranked ice magic users. Meanwhile, Alto was measuring Vermeil's height. It turned out that Alto needed to write a report about his familiar, and he had to take all of Vermeil's body measurements. So, she took off her clothes to make it easier for him to measure. Unexpectedly, Lilia and Cheryl were secretly watching them. This made Lilia furious, since it was the boys' dormitory. She couldn't go inside, but she had a backup plan. Lilia drank an invisibility potion. While Alto was measuring Vermeil's bust, Lilia sneaked into the dormitory. By the time Alto finished measuring, Lilia had entered the room. She was almost caught by Alto. After that, Vermeil chatted with Alto. She thought that since he had defeated a gold-ranked mage, he would be promoted to gold rank. However, Alto felt that Chris hadn't fought him with her full strength. This disappointed Vermeil. But Alto said, "As long as I have you by my side, I will never lose a fight." Meanwhile, Chris had been defeated by Rex, but his eyes were glowing red. At that moment, Rex remembered the first time he summoned his familiar. It was an egg. Chris saw his egg. This made her very excited. Chris thought it would hatch into a big and cool familiar. Meanwhile, Alto and Vermeil were shopping together. She saw a crepe stand, which made her very excited. But Alto didn't have enough money to buy one for her. So, he decided to save up for the month. This disappointed Vermeil. She was determined to make Alto buy her a crepe. In the end, Alto finally agreed. This made Vermeil so happy that she hugged him. She even kissed Alto in the middle of the street, making him embarrassed, because everyone was watching them. Suddenly, Rex's younger brother came looking for them. At this moment, Chris was no match for Rex. But, she still tried to fight back. Unexpectedly, Rex had completely transformed. He kept attacking and tormenting Chris. Luckily, Alto's group arrived just in time. He saw Chris injured, which made him worried. But, Chris still told him to run away. So, Alto decided to stop Rex, which made him furious. Rex immediately summoned his dinosaur. As Alto and Vermeil prepared to fight, suddenly, a girl appeared. She instantly defeated Rex with just one strike. It turned out she was Elena, the student council president. At that moment, Chris regained consciousness. She saw Rex injured, which made her very worried. Elena realized that Vermeil knew something. The student council was still investigating the incident, since Rex was already the fifth victim. Meanwhile, Chris was furious. She was determined to find out who had harmed Rex. On Alto's side, Lilia was excited, because they were about to take the copper rank promotion exam, which made him nervous. Suddenly, Vermeil said she was feeling a little tired. So, she wanted to go back to her room to rest first. She told Alto to go to the library to prepare for the exam, which made Alto feel that Vermeil was acting strange today. Meanwhile, Lilia was thrilled because this was her chance to get closer to Alto. At that moment, Vermeil encountered Obsidian. She pointed directly at his face and said, "You did this, didn't you?" Which caught him by surprise. But, he continued to pretend he didn't know anything. In reality, Vermeil had been watching him for a long time. So, he no longer needed to hide it. She could smell the stench of inferiority on him, which was an insult to Obsidian. But, Vermeil didn't care about what he had done, as long as he didn't lay a hand on Alto. This frightened Obsidian because she was a real demon. So, he admitted everything. Taking advantage of Vermeil's momentary distraction, he injected her with a madness-inducing drug. His goal was to control her. Meanwhile, Lilia was happily spending time with Alto. Suddenly, Alto's mark started glowing. He immediately realized something had happened to Vermeil. Everyone also felt a massive surge of magic power. As Elena rushed toward Vermeil, she was suddenly stopped by someone. At this moment, Vermeil had transformed into her demon form, which greatly excited Obsidian. This was the true power of a high-ranking demon. While Alto was extremely worried about Vermeil, Obsidian tried to take control of her. He conjured a chain and wrapped it around Vermeil's neck. Just then, Alto and Lilia arrived. They don't know what's happening. Meanwhile, Obsidian has taken control of Vermeil. So, he explains everything to Alto. He created a drug that enhances power, especially for demons. So, he searched for 5 people to use as test subjects. Thanks to that, his research was successful, and he admits that he is the mastermind behind everything. Shocking Alto and Lilia, Alto sees that Vermeil is losing control, which makes him furious, and he releases his magic power. Suddenly, Obsidian's chains break. Vermeil goes berserk and attacks him. But, Alto used his body to stop her, causing him to get injured. At that moment, Vermeil remembers, when she was sealed away, she felt lonely. But, Alto was the one who set her free. Vermeil sees him collapse before her eyes, filling her with sorrow. So, she completely loses control and transforms into a demon. As she is about to kill Obsidian, Alto suddenly embraces her, helping Vermeil regain her composure. He says, "I am your master," and Vermeil returns to normal. But, Alto collapses. Vermeil is determined not to let him die. So, she kisses Alto and heals his wounds. Meanwhile, Obsidian is in despair because his plan has failed. So, he injects the drug into himself, transforming into a giant demon. Now, he is confident in his power and immediately attacks Vermeil. But, to his surprise, she defeats him effortlessly with a single punch. Terrified, Obsidian abandons his giant body and tries to flee. But, Chris was already waiting for him. Vermeil continues to chase and defeat him. However, she refuses to kill him because Alto wouldn't want that. At this moment, Alto regains consciousness, making Lilia overjoyed. Meanwhile, Vermeil feels guilty. The one who was stopping Elena also leaves. Then, Vermeil tells Alto the truth. She had pierced his heart. And he had truly died. So, Vermeil gave him her own heart. It is the heart of a demon. If she dies, Alto will die too. Likewise, if Alto dies, she will also perish. This shocks Alto. He blames her, because demons can live for thousands of years. Yet she sacrificed herself for him. In the end, everything is resolved, and Obsidian is captured. When Rex wakes up, he sees Chris lying beside him. The unconscious students also gradually regain consciousness. Meanwhile, Alto must absorb Vermeil's magic to keep his heart functioning. But, he notices that she talks to him less, because she sees herself as a demon, and believes she will bring disaster to Alto. She even considers sealing herself away in the book again, so that Alto can live a normal life. This makes Alto furious, and he suddenly kisses Vermeil, leaving her stunned. Vermeil realizes that he didn't absorb any of her magic. Alto then declares that Vermeil is his familiar, so she must always stay by his side. However, embarrassed, Alto runs away. Vermeil remembers that he once said, "One should only kiss the person they love." It makes her blush, because Alto loves her. At that moment, Vermeil sees Alto sleeping, and she remembers how he wanted her to stay by his side, making her feel embarrassed. The next morning, the female students hear about Obsidian's capture, which makes them very sad. Alto is surprised that he was so popular. Meanwhile, the male students are fans of Vermeil. But today, she isn't with Alto. It turns out that this morning, she wanted to be alone. Alto thinks that if he buys sweets for her, she will cheer up again. While Vermeil is lost in thought, Lilia comes looking for her. Lilia knows that Vermeil is hiding something. She warns Vermeil. She doesn't care if Vermeil is a demon, but she must not do anything strange to Alto. This reminds Vermeil of their kiss. So she asks Lilia, "Are you afraid of me?" Because Vermeil sees herself as a demon and fears that she will bring danger to Alto again. But Lilia doesn't care about that, even if Vermeil is a demon. But demons, like humans, can be good or evil. What matters is how Alto feels about her. Since she is Alto's familiar, she should earn his trust. And Lilia reminds her that mages also go to great lengths to protect their familiars. Lilia's words help Vermeil feel more at ease. That night, Vermeil returns, which makes Alto very happy, because he had been so worried about her. At that moment, Vermeil confesses to Alto that she is still blaming herself. Because of the terrible thing she did to him before, she feels that she shouldn't stay by his side to avoid bringing harm to him again. However, deep down, she still wants to be with him. This relieves Alto, because he finally understands her feelings. Knowing that she wants to stay with him fills him with joy. So, Alto promises to be a good master to her, and buys her lots of crepes. Suddenly, Vermeil kisses Alto, leaving him stunned. She tells him she has always wanted to kiss him, because she couldn't stop thinking about him today. So, Alto also took the initiative to kiss her. The next morning, Vermeil tries on the school uniform, but it doesn't fit her. So, Alto decides to take her shopping for a new outfit, which makes Vermeil very happy. Meanwhile, Obsidian's subordinates hear about his defeat, which amuses him. It made him excited, and he killed many mages here. Suddenly, a mage attempts to ambush him, but he is easily defeated. It turns out the attackers are Lolite and Heliodol, platinum-ranked mages. At that moment, Alto and Vermeil arrive at school, causing all the male students to celebrate like they won the lottery, because Vermeil looks stunning in her uniform. Then, an announcement is made. The rank-up exam is approaching. So, Vermeil pulls Alto aside and kisses him, because she needs to absorb more of his magic power to prepare for the exam. When they return to class, Elena suddenly arrives. She tells Alto to come with her, which makes him nervous, as he fears they have discovered Vermeil is a demon. However, Elena apologizes to him for failing to properly protect the students at the school, which led to Alto getting injured. She then informs him that Obsidian has escaped from prison. This shocks Alto, and Elena asks, "You're hiding something from us, aren't you?" Then, they restrain both Alto and Vermeil, surprising them both. Alto worries about Vermeil, so he decides to tell the truth. Vermeil is a demon. This shocks everyone. Meanwhile, Elena seems satisfied, so Alto explains everything to them. They never expected him to form a contract with a demon. However, Alto insists that Vermeil is not evil. He even says that he is willing to be expelled for her because she is very important to him. But, if they try to harm Vermeil, he will fight against them. However, Elena assures him that they will not expel him. Instead, she invites him to join the student council, which surprises him. Alto realizes that Elena is doing this to keep an eye on him. Because if he ever loses control of Vermeil, she could pose a great threat to the academy. And since he defeated Chris, he meets the qualifications to join the student council. Meanwhile, Lilia hears the news about Alto joining the student council, which shocks her, since no second-year student has ever been skilled enough to join the student council. Everyone is excited for Alto. Later in the afternoon, Vermeil notices that Alto is still worried. Because the student council has discovered her true identity, she warns Alto to be careful around Elena because Elena gives her a sense of unease. This makes Alto realize that he must become stronger, so he can protect Vermeil. They can no longer hide that she is a demon, which makes Vermeil happy because Alto wants to grow stronger for her sake. She immediately moves in and kisses Alto. At that moment, Alto tells himself that he must become stronger so he can protect Vermeil. Then, he promises her, "I will definitely become the strongest in the world." As soon as he opens the door to look for Elena, suddenly, he saw them changing clothes, which shocks him, so they decide to punish him. However, Elena admits that it was their fault for not locking the door. Meanwhile, Jessica is still furious because Alto saw her body. But Elena reminds everyone that they have a more important matter to deal with. They must find out who was controlling the paper puppets, as the culprit used an extremely complex magic formula. Even gold-rank mages couldn't decipher it. So, she thought that person was a platinum-rank mage. Meanwhile, Iolite and Heliodol went to find Kohakumiya. It turned out she was the one controlling the paper dolls, and they were trying to resurrect a demon. Their next targets were Alto and Vermeil. At that moment, Alto saw that Vermeil was just a little girl. When he woke up, Alto saw a woman standing in front of him. She gave Alto two choices. The first was to choose justice and serve the interests of humanity. The second was to be selfish and serve only Vermeil's interests. When she asked him what he would choose, Alto suddenly woke up, since he couldn't go back to sleep. Alto continued reviewing for the bronze rank exam. It turned out that the student council had put pressure on Alto, forcing him not to fail this exam. The next morning, Alto went to the library. He saw the book that had sealed Vermeil. Alto wondered who had sealed Vermeil, and he remembered the woman from his dream. So, Alto took the book home to study it. Finally, the bronze rank exam arrived. Alto realized he now had a vast amount of mana, and his wife supported him as well. So, he believed he could pass this exam. At that moment, all the students from different schools gathered there. Alto saw a large crystal orb in front of him. The examiner announced that they had to channel their mana into this massive crystal orb, and it would measure each candidate's mana capacity. Everyone thought this task was too easy, but Alto felt it wasn't that simple. At that moment, the candidates started channeling their mana into the crystal orb, but no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't make the flames inside burn any stronger. Then it was Lilia's turn. She realized the trick behind the exam. Unexpectedly, she made the flames blaze intensely, shocking everyone. The examiner was very pleased. He believed Lilia would achieve the highest score. At that moment, a student from another school challenged Lilia, and he was also able to make the flames grow stronger. They realized there were many skilled participants in this exam, but the examiner said that if this was all they could do, he would be disappointed. Finally, it was Alto's turn. Everyone was surprised because they thought Alto had brought a relative to compete. But the examiner clarified that it was his familiar, and he had never seen a familiar in human form before. At that moment, Alto realized there were multiple magic circles inside the crystal orb, and they would disperse the mana outward. So, Alto chose a different position. The examiner noticed that Alto had discovered the key to the test. It turned out the goal of this exam was to decipher the magic formula, which made the examiner very pleased with Alto. Alto then channeled his mana into the crystal orb. Unexpectedly, the flames changed color. The examiner realized that Alto had chosen the most difficult spot to channel mana. He understood that Alto had done it on purpose because Alto didn't want to be just an ordinary mage. While Alto felt this was nothing compared to transferring mana to Vermeil. Vermeil stopped him, because she didn't want to frighten everyone. Unexpectedly, the crystal orb shattered, shocking everyone. Alto quickly apologized for overdoing it. He thought he had failed the exam. But the examiner told him he had passed, which made Alto very happy. Meanwhile, the examiner still couldn't believe that someone had broken the crystal orb, as even a platinum-rank mage would struggle to do so. At that moment, everyone was overjoyed because they had passed the practical exam. They only had the written exam left. Lilia wondered if anyone had ever passed the bronze rank exam with a perfect score. So, Cheryl said that there was one person who had aced every exam, which surprised Alto. Vermeil told him not to be afraid because he had already achieved a perfect score in the practical exam. So, they were determined to pass the written exam together. At that moment, Alto was scolding Vermeil because she insisted on transferring mana to him, almost making him late for the exam. Meanwhile, another student was furious because Alto had outshined him in the practical test. Suddenly, Iolite appeared and immediately attacked him. It turned out that Iolite wanted to take Alto's place in the exam. At that moment, Alto was rushing to the exam room. Luckily, he made it just in time. He told Vermeil to wait for him, since he couldn't bring his familiar into the exam hall. When Alto found his seat, he was shocked to see Iolite sitting right next to him, which greatly amused Iolite. Meanwhile, Vermeil was feeling bored because she couldn't eat sweets. She overheard that this year's exam was extremely difficult, but she had full confidence in her master because he had studied very hard. While Alto was focused on his exam, he noticed that Iolite was sleeping, which surprised him, but he didn't have time to get distracted. So, he continued working on his test. Suddenly, Iolite woke up. Alto realized he didn't have much time left to finish his exam. Unexpectedly, Iolite took just one glance and instantly completed his test, shocking Alto. He even had enough time to help Alto with the answers, which got them both scolded by the teacher. Iolite claimed that no one would be able to complete this test. Suddenly, an announcement came in. A student had been found dead in the restroom. Everyone immediately suspected Iolite, so he began to take action. Vermeil sensed that Alto was in danger. While Alto still didn't know who Iolite was, Iolite said, "I am your enemy." When the teacher tried to arrest him, Iolite attacked. Alto realized that Iolite was an ally of Obsidian. Suddenly, Vermeil arrived. She and Alto immediately worked together to attack him, but Iolite blocked their attack. At that moment, the examiner realized that he was Iolite, known as Heaven's Command, and Iolite was the youngest platinum-ranked mage. Iolite also recognized that this examiner was Phalanx, a colonel of the royal army. Lilia wanted to rush in to save Alto, but she was stopped by Phalanx's subordinates. Phalanx didn't understand why he didn't need a hostage. However, Iolite was confident that no one could stop him. Outside, Lilia realized the room had been hit by teleportation magic, so they couldn't get inside. It turned out that Heliodol was responsible. Meanwhile, Alto's group had begun battling Iolite, but they were defeated, leaving Alto injured. Iolite continuously used a giant golem to attack them. In the end, he captured Vermeil. Everyone realized that Iolite was too powerful. Iolite started to feel bored, because even demons couldn't do anything against him. But Alto stood up. He told him to release Vermeil. Then, he activated his power, surprising Iolite, because his magic energy was golden. Suddenly, he attacked and destroyed Iolite's golem to rescue Vermeil. At that moment, Alto's power turned silver. He said, "I will protect Vermeil," which greatly excited Iolite. He summoned more golems, but Alto destroyed them all. Then, he charged straight at Iolite. But Alto was blocked by his familiar. Iolite hadn't expected Alto to force him to use his knight. Alto asked what he planned to do with Vermeil. Iolite replied, "I want to destroy this world." And they needed the power of demons. He even considered demons to be nothing good. This enraged Alto, as he was about to punch Iolite in the face. Iolite pinned him to the ground. Vermeil then transformed into her demon form and attacked him. But Iolite caught her and immediately put her to sleep. Iolite thought it was over. But Alto kept resisting. He was determined to protect Vermile. So, Iolite decided to kill him first. Suddenly, the book that sealed Vermile blocked his attack. The woman from Alto's dreams appeared. She surprised him. She said that she was the source of all mages. And she was also the one who sealed Vermile. But Iolite realized that she was no longer alive. It turned out she was just a small fragment of the soul she had left behind. Alto didn't understand why she sealed Vermile. So, she unlocked Vermile's memories to let Alto witness everything. But he had to be ready to accept all of her pain and emotions. So, Alto immediately agreed, because he wanted to be with Vermile. Then, she gave Alto a key. But Iolite didn't want to wait. So, he attacked them. However, they teleported to another space. At this moment, Alto entered Vermile's memories. These were the memories she had forgotten. And this place was a separate space from the outside world. If Alto couldn't save Vermile, he would be trapped in this world forever. And this place was the kingdom of Ortija 550 years ago. Suddenly, he saw a little girl. She was Vermile. It turned out that Vermile was an orphan at the monastery. But here, she was very happy with her friends. At this moment, Vermile was eating a lot. Because Miel's food was too delicious. Even though they didn't have much food, Vermile always smiled at everyone. That was the happiest time of her life. And she considered everyone here her family. At night, Vermile realized that she was a demon. Because she had horns on her head. But she didn't understand why she could be here, since demons were the enemies of God. However, the sister still saw Vermile as a member of their family. This surprised Alto, because the sister knew Vermile was a demon. Yet, she still took care of her. And only she knew Vermile's true nature. One day, the children discovered the horns on Vermile's head. So, they threw stones at her, because they knew she was a demon. Fortunately, Miel chased them away. Suddenly, she also realized that Vermile was a demon. This terrified Vermile. But Miel embraced her, and Miel promised to protect Vermile. At that moment, the monastery was being pelted with stones by the villagers, because they wanted to drive the demon out of the village. This made Vermile anxious. So, the sister comforted her. She believed that God would help them. Meanwhile, Alto was worried, because the villagers were furious. It turned out that the village had just suffered from a plague, causing many deaths. So, they blamed the demons for everything. But the sister said that Vermile was just an innocent child. At this moment, Vermile was very anxious. So, Miel told her to run away, because this place was no longer safe for her. This made Miel cry, because she couldn't protect Vermile. After that, Vermile ran away. But the villagers continued to hunt her down. Since they couldn't find Vermile, they blamed the people in the monastery instead. This made Vermile worried. So, she decided to go back. Unexpectedly, when Vermile returned, she saw that her loved ones had been killed. This filled Vermile with sorrow. So, she transformed into her demon form to take revenge on the village. In the end, the village was destroyed, while Vermile was drowning in sorrow. Fatima said that this was Vermile's sin, and she had become humanity's strongest scourge. From that moment on, Vermile began a lonely life. Fatima asked Alto, "Do you still cherish her?" So, Alto jumped down and appeared before Vermile. She knew she had done something terrible. But Alto embraced her. He promised to always stay by her side. Suddenly, Vermile reverted to her normal form. It turned out that she had always hidden this memory, because she was afraid of being hated. At that moment, Alto fully understood Vermile's emotions. So, he said, "Even if the whole world turns its back on you, I will always be by your side." This warmth filled Vermile's heart. Alto then said, "I love you." And so, they kissed. This shattered Iolite's seal. Thanks to that, they returned to the present world. Iolite was shocked, as he saw Alto and Vermile standing before him once again. This amused him. So, Iolite summoned his knight. He said that the power of demons was terrifying, that it could even change the world, especially Vermile's power. No demon could compare to her. So, he wanted to use her strength to destroy this world. However, Alto immediately told him to shut up, because he could never truly understand Vermile. Thus, Alto swore that he would never let Iolite touch her again. This excited Iolite, so he attacked them, but Alto and Vermeil combined their powers, and he managed to block Iolite's attack. He even destroyed Iolite's knight, shocking Iolite. So Iolite decided to fight them seriously. Suddenly, Heliodol appeared. She told Iolite to return, because they were out of time. Alto realized that she was also a platinum-ranked mage. With that, Iolite decided to leave. Alto immediately asked what his goal was. But Iolite simply said he would return to finish this fight. And so, they departed. Suddenly, Fatima appeared once again. She asked Alto if everything he had said was truly from his heart. So, Alto promised to continue growing stronger to protect Vermeil. This made Vermeil very happy. Fatima also felt at ease in trusting her best friend to him. With that, Fatima used magic to send Alto and Vermeil back. At that moment, Lilia saw that Alto was safe, which filled her with joy. The next day, Alto began training with Jessica, because he wanted to become stronger without relying on Vermeil. This intrigued Chris as well. So, she decided to train him too. Even though Alto had immense mana, Chris realized that he lacked real combat experience. After they finished training, Jessica didn't understand why Alto was so determined to become stronger. So, he simply said, "I want to protect her, even if the whole world turned its back on Vermeil." This made Jessica develop feelings for Alto as well. The next morning, Alto and Vermeil went to the student council. Elena saw the determination on his face. She reported that recent incidents had caused harm to many students. So, she ordered the student council to protect the academy students. Then, she asked Alto, "Our enemy is a platinum-ranked mage. Are you afraid?" But Alto still chose to fight, because he was Vermeil's master. At that moment, Lilia was overjoyed, because they had officially become bronze-ranked mages. However, she couldn't find Alto anywhere. It turned out that Alto had kissed Vermeil, which made him extremely embarrassed, since they were still at school. However, Vermeil wasn't willing to let him go so easily. That's it for today's video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support Oni-chan in future videos. Thank you for watching. Much love.